You know, in our world may offer many kinds of solutions to explain much of the human predicament around us. Some believe that the problem is in ignorance, and so every problem can be solved, they say, by investing more in education. Many in government believe that the problem lies in the lack of rule-making, and so, to them, the solution is found in laws and regulations. For those in the medical field, they believe that the problem of disease can be overcome by medicine, and so millions of dollars are poured year by year into medical research. I could go on with example after example, but you get the point. Everyone tries to identify the problem, and then, based on their diagnosis, they put forth a solution, a program, to address the predicament. Now, what makes the biblical message different is that it correctly identifies the human problem, and that is S-I-N, sin. Now, the peace we all want must begin with us dealing with our problem of sin. Now, no one wants to be called a sinner. C.S. Lewis, though, was right on spot when he said this. Fallen man is not an imperfect who needs improvement. He is a rebel who must lay down his arms. People don't like to hear that. But this is the Bible's message. Anyone who thinks otherwise is ignorant of the terribleness of sin and the awesome holiness and justice of God's character. It is because the Bible gets it right in diagnosing the problem. It is not surprising that those who embrace the message of the Bible experience true and lasting change. The believers at Colossae who accepted God's diagnosis of their problem with sin had experienced change, real and abiding change. They were able to experience this lasting change because of the reconciling work of Jesus Christ. Now, in the last few weeks of this sermon series, we learned of the powerful reconciling work of Christ in relation to creation, chapter 1, verses 16 to 17. He is the originator and sustainer of all things. And in relation to redemption, in verse 18, he is the firstborn from the dead. Paul now brings the reconciling work of Christ to a more personal level as our restorer of fellowship with God in chapter 1, verses 21 to 23, which is the scripture text that was read to us. In reminding the Colossian believers of the way Christ has changed their lives, Paul wants them to remember three things. Are you ready? Number one, your past, alienation. Number two, your present, reconciliation. Number three, your future, presentation. And to prove that they have changed, number four, your evidence, continuation. Let me begin with the first reminder. Paul wants them to remember the kind of life they were once living before they encountered Christ. I want you to notice the past tense in verse 21 of our text, when Paul says to the Colossians, you who once were alienated and hostile in mind, doing evil deeds. That's the past tense. You once were. Now, although our backgrounds and spiritual upbringings may differ, we all have this one thing common with the Colossian believers, and that is sin. There was a time when each of us found ourselves in a condemned state due to the rebellion of our heart against God. Paul now, reminding the Colossians of their past life and ours too, describes three marks which are also true of those who do not know Christ today. We were alienated, hostile in mind, and do evil deeds. Now you may be thinking, wait a minute. Paul here is talking to those pagan Colossians. They may have been like that, but I have never been hostile toward God. I have been raised in a Christian home, you know. I accepted Christ when I was a child. I was never alienated from God. Or perhaps you came to know Christ a little older, but you still would say that you were never alienated from God. I've never been an atheist, you said. To you, words like alienated, hostile, evil deeds just can't describe your past. But in faithfulness to the scriptures, I must say that if you feel that those words were too harsh for you, you just haven't yet come to know your own heart as God sees it.